Okay, today we started to explore the concept of measurement using centimeters, and we started out just to build some foundational skills with this object here, which is called a centimeter cube. And when you measure this cube, it measures exactly 1 centimeter on each side. And so we began with showing the children the measurement of this cube with 1 centimeter on each side. Then what we were teaching them to do is to look at different objects and to estimate first how many centimeters long that they thought an object was, and to use centimeter cubes to see if they were correct. So we lined up the centimeter cube. With the end of the object. To get an understanding of the measurement. And what you can see here is this paper clip is about 5 centimeters long, approximately. It's just an estimation. When we talked about how we use the words about if it's not exact, and we try to go to the nearest. And one way that we can tell here too is if we line this up to the end of our paper clip, we can see that the other end point of the paper clip comes to about here. Okay. The other thing that we taught students is we were explaining how the centimeter cubes cannot be spread out. There cannot be space in between when you're measuring, because you're measuring exactly 1 centimeter right next to the next. And that will help them when they start working with a ruler to make sure that they're not skipping any centimeters. So we want them to truly understand that from here to here is 1 centimeter, from here to here is 2, so that they're going to the end of this. Okay. Then we introduce them to some new language, and we introduce them to the language of an endpoint. And parents, an endpoint is where from one end of the object that you're measuring, or one end of the line, and the other end point is the opposite end of that line. And so what they had to do today in class was use their centimeter cubes, and they had to put their centimeter cube, it's a little hard to see, but this is at the end here. Maybe I can give you a different view. So we line this up at the end. And they needed to make sure that their cubes were next to each other without any spaces. Let me push this over just a little bit. So this one here, I'll go to my endpoint. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you can see I added another centimeter cube. But if you look at it closely, it's actually, the end of it here is actually a little less than half of my cube. So we were teaching children, then you go to this first one here, so then you would know that you would go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 centimeters. It's about 5 centimeters. You would not include this one 6 because it goes so far past the middle of the line. So even though we added it in, it's actually closer to this end of this 5th cube opposed to the end of this 6th cube. We also talked about making sure that when they're measuring and they're lining up their cubes, there aren't any gaps or spaces, because if there are spaces, they're not getting an exact measurement. So that would actually be incorrect. We want to teach them that it has to be lined up. And again, the reason that the answer is 5, not 6, is because when you're measuring from end point to end point, you can see here that this goes a little bit past. The goal for second graders is to measure to the nearest centimeter, not the nearest half centimeter yet. So at this point, while yes, you could argue that it would be 5.5 centimeters, while that is accurate, we are teaching them to measure to the nearest centimeters, which at this point is 5. Okay. All right, I hope that helps. A couple of the other problems that they'll have are basic word problems, so that you'll be able to see, now that they're understanding measurement, they're going to have some problems where they have to figure out the total length of something, or they have to split it apart. And this just goes back to the basic word problem solving that they did earlier this year, but applying it to measurement as well. Thank you.